celebration of First Reconciliation for our little second graders. And it's always interesting and kind of fun to watch how they change from being very nervous and not sure what to say before they go in to listening to their parents tell them, make sure you mention this. And then to see how they are when they come out. And I often go around and say, well, what did you think? Well, one little girl came out yesterday and she just looked around and said, I feel good. Kind of like she was surprised that that happened. I went up to a little boy and I said, so what'd you think? He goes, piece of cake. So I thought, that we all thought going to reconciliation was a piece of cake. One of the things that we do, though, is we have the parents present the children. So they will walk in and say, Father, this is my son or daughter, and offer their name to them. And that's one of the things that we do with each of the sacraments, is we present them. Like for baptisms, parents and godparents present that child for baptism, for entry into the church, into the Christian faith, and into the life of the sacraments. For confirmation, we have sponsors who are chosen, who with their hand on their shoulder present the candidate to the bishop and say, Bishop, this is. And so it's a very important part of our sacramental life to make sure that we present people, to say we are willing to stand behind them. We are willing to vouch for their readiness for this sacrament. We're also willing to be that person who continues to accompany them through life. I remember the first time I was asked to be a confirmation sponsor. I was over in River Falls, and I was probably in my late 20s, and it was the era of the clogs. Remember ladies wearing clogs? Well, I had a hard time keeping anything that wasn't laced or strapped on my feet. So I was going to be a sponsor for Cindy. And I made myself a new dress. I thought I kind of looked okay. I put on these clogs and I'm trying to walk, keeping them on my feet. We went up to the bishop. I was so proud to present her, amazing young woman. So I presented her to the bishop and I turned to walk back and one of my shoes came off. And so I turned and I was going to pick it up, but the next person had already kicked it. And then the next person kicked it a little more. And so finally somebody just kicked it under the front row. Well, I thought I can't just crawl around and pick it up. But anyway, so I took off the other shoe and went to communion stocking foot and looked for my shoe after Mass. And I remember thinking, why did she choose me? If I can't even do my role in the ceremony correctly, why did she choose me? And friends, maybe sometimes each of us thinks, why did God choose me? Why did God choose me to be a lector? Why did God choose me to be a disciple? Why did God choose me when I have all of these times when I feel like I don't get it right? And yet that's what today is all about. God has chosen each one of us. Just like in the gospel when Jesus is baptized by John and the heavens open up and God says, this is my beloved Son. That's what was said to us at our baptisms as well. This is my beloved son. This is my beloved daughter. This is one who I know is going to be a blessing to our world. Maybe not a perfect blessing, but a blessing nonetheless. And in our first reading, Isaiah reminds us of how we can be that blessing. We can be that blessing by doing everything we can to make sure our world, at least in the corner where we live, becomes a little more just. Bring a little more peace into our world, to do what we can to reach out to the poor, to do what we can to make sure that those who do not feel included are once again included. Isaiah also talks about not breaking the bent reed or not quenching the smoldering wick, to make sure that those who are hurting have us as their source of hope, have us as the source of someone who is willing to walk with them. And so, friends, as we celebrate this feast of the baptism of the Lord, let us think back to the day of our own baptism, where our parents and our godparents came forth in faith, knowing that we were a blessing to their family, asking for that sacrament of blessing so that in many more ways we might be strengthened to be a blessing to our world.